Despite no nuclear or missile tests so far, tensions between the U.S. and North Korea are rising. Here to weigh in, author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World, Gordon Chang. Thank you so much for joining us, Gordon. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You know, folks across the globe are really bracing for a test this weekend, but in fact, I saw you on another network say that you didn't think that it would take place this weekend. Why?
Well, after the missile strikes that President Trump authorized on Syria, and he did that while Xi Jinping, the ruler of China, was next to him. China and Syria are really good friends, and I think that what happened is that the Chinese were stunned. They then lost whatever confidence that they had that they would be able to control Trump, and they think probably that they couldn't figure him out anymore. So I think what the Chinese did was work with the North Koreans to make sure there were no provocations on Day of the Sun, and that's exactly what happened. Now, we're going to have to see what North Korea does. They could detonate this nuke sometime. They certainly will. They've already sealed it in a tunnel. They've completed all the initial preparations. They've got to go forward at some time. But this is a real test of how much leverage Beijing has over Pyongyang, and so far, I think the Chinese are winning.
I want you to elaborate a little bit on the relationship between Beijing and North Korea, because if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, in 2017, in fact, the trade between the two countries has increased up to 37%. So what is the end game here in Beijing? What is the goal that they're trying to obtain?
Yeah, I think the short-term goal is that they want to use North Korea against the U.S. because every time North Korea does something provocative, we then become distracted in our conversations with China over issues that we think are important, such as cyber theft, predatory trade practices, South China Sea, you name it. And also, we always send a Secretary of State to Beijing to plead for their cooperation. So Beijing think that this endlessly creates bargaining chips for them. And so, yeah, they want to continue this. And they will put pressure on North Korea, but only when we put pressure on them. When we become distracted and look at somewhere else, we know that the Chinese are then going to go back to their default position of supporting Pyongyang.
You know, obviously, it's no secret the U.S. has shown its military might over the past 2 weeks, and I'm curious as to the fine line the United States has to walk between provoking North Korea and deterring them. And how does the Trump administration do that?
Well, this is very difficult because the Kim regime is difficult to read. But on the other hand, we have a pattern of dealing with them since the end of the Korean War, and we can work this problem. But on the other hand, we know that within 4 years, the North Koreans will be able to mate a nuke to their longest-range missiles and reach the lower 48 states. They already have the missiles to reach us. They just can't put the nuke on top of them. But that's just a matter of time because we know that they put the nuke on an intermediate-range missile, which can hit Japan. So we really don't have a luxury of time to figure this out. We've got to work hard, but you know, we can do it if we pay attention. Unfortunately, in the past, we pay attention at crisis times, and then after that, we look someplace else, and the North Koreans then just progress with their missile and nuke programs.
Yeah, well, perhaps we'll see a different stance from the Trump administration. And on that note, I do want to ask you, ahead of Vice President Pence's trip to Seoul, South Korea, what is the U.S. policy going forward, and what type of conversations are we going to see out of this trip?
Yeah, this trip of the Vice President is very important. The one thing it does do is it reassures our allies in the region, South Korea and Japan. And we got to remember that this follows the trips of our Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense because they also went there. And there is some rumors that Trump's first foreign trip will actually be to our allies in the region. That's a very important message that we're delivering. And we have to deliver it one after another official because right now we got some pretty nervous allies in the region.
All right. Well, Gordon, we appreciate you coming on and sorting this all out. I know there's, like we said, a lot of moving parts. Thank you so much.